Hi, everyone. Welcome to the USG podcast. This is Julie Riesler. I am your host, and I could not be more excited about today's guest. This is going to be so much fun. You guys are in for a crazy, amazing treat. Let me introduce you to a very dear friend who I'm thrilled to be reconnected with. You are going to get to meet Asha Mevlana. Let me tell you about Asha because she is a badass. Asha, as a musician, is currently the lead violinist for the Trans Siberian Orchestra. Her favorite music memories include touring with Dee Snider from Twisted Sister and Gnarls Barkley and performing at the Grammys. While she was living in Los Angeles, Asha performed regularly with the American Idol band, The Tonight Show, The Ellen Show, and she played with Mary J. Blige, Jay-Z, and Alanis Morrisette, just to name a few. Asha also built a 400 square foot tiny house and was featured on HGTV on the Tiny House Nation show. She lives in Arkansas with her dog, Bali, and I want you to know that Asha was also a very dear friend of mine in high school, back in Newton, Massachusetts, in our AP bio class where we did not listen a whole lot, and has always been a world-class friend and woman. And I am so honored to have you here, lovely, beautiful Asha. Welcome.
I'm so happy to be here. It's so fun. This has been, how long has it been? Over 25 years since I've actually seen like face-to-face?
Yeah.
Is that how long? It's been something like that.
Yeah.
It's so crazy, but it seems like yesterday.
Well, when we reconnected, I was like, wait a minute. I feel like I just was sitting next to you, not paying attention in AP bio, like passing a note,
Like
probably getting in trouble, moving seats, something going on.
It's so crazy.
It's so crazy. And now look at you. You are just, it's funny. For those listening in, so here's the thing. You always were just one of the kindest people. And I remember you being also a musician thinking like, oh, she just happens to like play this and play that, and she's the kindest person. And then today, I remember seeing a video of you playing in the Trans Siberian Orchestra thinking like, holy mackerel, that is just like, what a gift for the world, and just amazing that you lived into that whole way of being and being a musician. And I was like, that is so inspiring. And I knew right away, I was like, all right, you're a badass, and we gotta catch up.
Well, it's funny because that was never actually my plan to be a musician. So I studied violin since I was 6 years old. Wow. And, I just it never crossed my mind that I could be a musician. I never really had any sort of mentors that were musicians, and everyone's like, oh, you can't make a living as a musician. So that was never even crossed my mind. It was more just for fun. And, as I went along in college, I majored in music, but I still wasn't, I think the only class I had the day my major form was due was a jazz class. I needed my major form signed. So I majored in music. But then I was like, okay, I'm going to go into public relations. I guess that's what I can do. I'm going to climb the corporate ladder. Like, that's going to be my life. I'm going to make so much money. I'm going to have houses around the world. And that was sort of the plan, because all my friends were going into finance. And yeah, that was sort of, yeah, it was never a plan. I planned to be a musician.
Oh my gosh. All right. So tell us how you went. I mean, I just think, I know the story, but those listening don't. Like, okay, so public relations to now the lead violinist. Take us there. How did this happen, lady? Like, what happened?
Oh man, whoa. It was a crazy time in my life. So I was 1 year out of college, and so I had just turned 24, and I'd had a lump in my breast for like, I don't know, 2 years. And it basically ended up getting misdiagnosed for 2 years. And then right after my 24th birthday, I went in and got it checked, and they did a biopsy, and it was breast cancer. And so that day just completely shifted my entire life. And I went through chemotherapy, radiation. I was, it was probably 7 months or something, 6 or 7 months I was in treatment, and I had to continue working because I needed my medical insurance. But I promised myself, I said, as soon as this is over, I'm going to actually do something that I'm really excited about, that I'm really passionate about, that I want to be doing. I'm not going to do something just to make money. That was no longer the priority. So it really gave me this sort of opportunity to shift everything, shift my priorities in life, and figure out what was really important to me.
Wow. So you were 24. It had been misdiagnosed for 2 years. You were living with that, not knowing.
Yeah.
Oh my God. What a wake up call for you. Holy mackerel.
It was Yeah, I mean, it was a lifetime ago at this point.
Yeah.
But at the time, I mean, I remember it so clearly. I was like, wait, this wasn't in my life plan. I was always like super type A. I had my 1 year, 5 year, 10-year plan. I was like, wait a second, this doesn't fit into my plan. How is this going to work now? And then all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, I could actually be dead next year. Like, what do I want to do in this next year if I'm not going to survive? And the answer for me was, I want to give back. I want to help other people. I want to travel, which I'd never really done. And I really want to do music.
Wow. I love what you just said. I'm thinking for people, like a great takeaway is, I mean, hopefully no one has this, right? But like that idea that what if you had a year? What if you only had a short period? Like, what would you really want to do? And it sounds like that was like the anchor that got you to think totally different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think the really important thing was I'd always played everything safe. I never really took very many risks. I wanted to be successful. So I did the things I knew I could be successful at.
Yeah.
And for me, the change for me was, okay, I'm going to start living outside my comfort zone. I want to challenge myself. I want to really, really live life and whatever that means.
Yeah.
And it's actually become sort of this habit. Like now, as soon as I am feeling sort of complacent, I'm like, okay, it's about time to sort of challenge myself again. And as soon as I get that like little feeling in my stomach, I'm like, okay, this means I have to do it. And this means I'm going to learn something.
Oh, that's so awesome. I remember when you were telling me this story, just kind of really the metamorphosis. So to go from, I know you went to Wellesley, right? And kind of did the straight and narrow, playing it safe, like you said, the public relations, then you had this like crazy health situation. How, when you finally came through that, all the treatments, and like talk about kind of what happened after that and what it's looked like. Cause I know from talking to you, we talked a little bit about even getting it more into meditation and other things to kind of get grounded. And I think it'd be awesome to share with everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's a lot. So I actually ended up taking lessons with a woman when I was going through my chemotherapy.
Yeah.
And she was a really strict teacher. And I'd been taking with her before I got diagnosed. And I was trying to learn improvisation because I learned really strict classical. That was my training. But I really wanted to learn how to improvise. And I just couldn't get out of my shell. And it was just like, I didn't want to take that risk, like playing the wrong note. So anyway, during, actually after my first treatment, I was so sick and I was like throwing up, and I told my teacher, I was like, I can't make it. And she was, I don't care if you're sick, you're going to get over here and you're having a lesson. And I was like, I was so angry, but I went over and I was pissed. And I was like, I can't believe she's making me do this. I'm so sick. And, and I really learned a lot from her as a life sort of mentor, because she didn't let me get away with excuses. And she said, okay, today we're doing something different. We're going to take a different course now. She said, I want you to play what you experienced in the hospital going in, and, tell me about it. So I started telling her about it. She goes, no, I need you to play this on your violin. I don't want you to use any words.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh my God. So it was like a full-on improvisation. So I was like, okay. And I just closed my eyes, and it was, I don't even know how to describe this. I feel like I'm going to tear up just like thinking about it. But I just started playing from like what was inside. I wasn't thinking about what was right and what wasn't right. It was all about like really expressing myself, which is what improvisation really is. You're expressing what's coming, what's inside, and putting it out on your instrument. And I played like these slow notes, and then I played the kind of, I was, the really nervous, faster notes when they're putting the IV into my arm, and then, and then the kind of getting groggy, and I finished, and it was just like silent. And usually I needed her validation. Like, did I do a good job? Did I not do a good job? But I didn't even need it at that point. She's like, you get a sticker for today. And it was ridiculous because I was like, 24 years old, and she gives out stickers, and I'd never gotten a sticker. And all the time I'd study with her, and all of a sudden I got a sticker. I was like, whoa, that like the sticker meant a lot to me.
Wow. There's so much in what you just said. It was, to me, like, it almost sounds like the birthing of you letting go and digging deep and letting go of the rules and playing safe. Like you said, learning how to take risks. And when you really went in and went like to the experience, like what came out, I mean, you got a sticker, which was awesome, but, but I almost wish, like, was that recorded? Like, have you recorded that? Because I bet you people could like viscerally connect to that.
I didn't record it, but I opened my eyes. I wasn't even looking at her, and she was in silence, and she just had tears coming down her face. My teacher.
Oh
It was
my
crazy. I was like,
gosh.
I mean, and I felt it too. It was so powerful. It was the first time
Yeah.
I actually really played like from my heart.
Right. Also I love about that too, it's like this idea that we can communicate. It's not just verbal, which, there's like the idea, I think it's like 93% of communication is not verbal anyhow, but like you communicated your heart through the violin, like really what was going on. That is really powerful.
Yeah, it was like a changing point for me.
Wow. And how did you go from there to them like pivoting, switching like course on the boat? Now you're, the lead with the Trans Siberian Orchestra. How did talk about that journey? Because that's incredible.
Well, as soon as I finished all my treatments, I told them I was quitting, and I left, and I basically just started figuring out like, what do I really want to do? And so what I did originally when I first finished is I worked at a nonprofit called the Young Survival Coalition, which was a group of women 40 and under who've had breast cancer. So I started working there as outreach, and it was a kind of a new organization at the time. So I started speaking to high school and college age women just about being really proactive about your health and really trusting your instinct and your gut, because a lot of times I was like, maybe there's something wrong, but the doctors must know. They're telling me nothing's wrong. You're too young for breast cancer. People your age don't get breast cancers. Of course you're like, oh, I want to believe them. And of course they're right. And so what I really learned from that is the doctors don't know everything, and really, you have to be proactive if you feel like there's something wrong. So that's kind of the message I wanted to give to people. And then I also worked with a lot of families going through a breast cancer diagnosis. So I actually worked with the families rather than even the person going through it, because I think sometimes it's harder for the family than the person actually going through it. Especially when it's a younger person and their parents who feel like my mom even said, she's like, I feel like this, I wish this were me instead of you. These parents feel so helpless having a child who's diagnosed with cancer, and that's really hard for parents to go through. So, I talked a lot with families going through that. And at the same time, I started playing with like bands and sort of trying to like get out of the classical scene and getting more rock. And then I went to visit, I had one friend in LA who I hadn't spoken to in like years, but I was going there for like a work thing. And I was there for a long weekend. And somehow she's such a good salesperson, but she basically, by the end of the weekend, she made me call my roommate, my 2 jobs, and my bands. And I called everyone. I said, I'm not coming back. I quit everything.
Oh my God.
While I was in LA. I mean, it was crazy. I woke up the next morning. I was like, I cannot believe I just did that. But then I had to do it. So I flew back to New York, packed up all my stuff, and moved to LA.
Wow. With nothing, I'm like, no, took drastic action.
Yeah.
That is
I had
awesome.
No job lined up. I knew one person. Right. It was a little crazy.
Wow. Okay. So you quit everything. You knew one person. What happened after that? I think this is it's so beautiful, because you went from this, like, I almost picture, like a tight bud that's like just wants to bloom, but it's just not. And this, what sounds like happened is, through the experience of breast cancer, it kind of had you really reevaluate. It's like, screw staying the small bud. Like, it's time to blossom. Like, this is not working.
It was like this instant overnight thing where it's like, okay, I just have to do it. There's no choice anymore. Yeah. So I flew to LA with like a suitcase, and I ended up staying with these like distant cousins who I didn't know. And they let me stay there for as long as I wanted to. They were really nice. And I just started looking around. I started teaching music. I don't know if I should tell this story or not, but I met this other girl. I don't know if I told you this or not, but I met this other girl like my first week in LA, and she was a violinist, and we didn't know what we were doing. We were so clueless. And so we're walking up and down like Sunset Boulevard, and we're like, okay, we need a job. Let's go in, like tell them we play violin and stuff. Did I tell you this?
No, I'm like, everyone, this is a new story. I don't know it either.
God. Okay, maybe I shouldn't tell this, but anyway. So we're walking along with our violins. We go into this one club in the middle of the afternoon, and the 2 owners happen to be there. We're like, yes, okay. So we did our whole pitch. We're like, yeah, we dance while we play. We had literally just met each other like a week before. We were kind of clueless. And they're like, oh my God, that's so perfect. Do you want to start this coming Thursday? We said, Oh, sure. Absolutely. We're acting super confident. And the only thing is, like, you can't get down to nothing. You have to keep your pasties on. I was like, wait, what are they talking about? And we started looking around. We realized we'd walked into a strip club.
Oh.
All over the place. We told them we danced while we played, so they assumed that we were like strippers. No. We're like, no. We can't really take our clothes off because we're playing and we use our hands. They're like, okay, that's fine. So they ended up, we worked there for probably the next 6 months. Every Thursday, we would be closed, but there was a stripper who would be on the pole in the middle of us. And that's how we actually learned all of our songs. We would like learn a couple songs. We'd play like a 10-minute set, get paid like, I mean, at the time, I think it was like $500 like total, so $250 each. It was a lot of money for like a 10-minute thing. Right. And people be throwing dollar bills at us, and like, I mean, it's crazy. But this is how we got our repertoire up. Like, we practiced that week for that show.
Oh my God. That is a fantastic story. You're like, pasties? What the heck are you talking about?
Yeah, that was my first job in LA.
Oh.
Yeah.
Lady on the pole, your friend just playing. That is fantastic.
I'm not really going to tell my parents I'm doing this.
Yeah, till later when it all works out. Oh my gosh. But what a difference from like public relations in New York, right? To like, now we're playing at a strip bar, but awesome, because that's where whatever, it's great. That is a great story. Yeah. Holy mackerel. And hey, good for them for hiring you.
Yeah.
With clothes on. That's impressive. Oh my gosh. Okay. So did you take those, so you would build up your repertoire, and then how did you get yourself into, like, did you find out about the audition? Like, how did that happen?
The audition for which one?
Or with Trans Siberian, like, how did you eventually?
Oh, well, that was actually years after. So,
oh, I see.
Yeah. So it's kind of a small scene in LA when you kind of get into it. It took me about 6 months to sort of kind of get in the scene. And that's when I started playing with Gnarls Barkley, and I went on tour with them, and that was cool. And I played the Grammys with Gnarls Barkley when they that had that song "Crazy." I don't know if you remember that song.
Yes, I didn't realize you played that with. That's amazing.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. So we're on tour for that tour, and then,
just playing in the Grammys. Barkley, it's all good.
And then I joined this Australian band who was signed by Universal, and so then I played with them while I was in LA, and we toured with that, and then. Universal sent us over to Australia to release the record. And so I was living over there for like a year and a half, and I came back to the US for some family thing, but I didn't, and they hadn't renewed my entertainment visa. I was on like a waiver, and I didn't realize that I couldn't leave the country on a waiver.
Oh, wow.
So when I got back to Boston, I couldn't get back in the country. I was living with a guy there. All my instruments were there. I mean, everything I owned was over in Australia.
Oh my gosh.
And so I couldn't get back in the country. And at that time I was I loved the band, but it was just kind of falling apart. It just wasn't really going anywhere. So I was like, you know what, this is the end of my music career. Like, this is it. I'm done. And so I was like, okay, what am I going to do with my life? And so I went to film school. I was like, well, I love editing videos. I'm going to start editing. So it was like an 8-month program. And actually, I think it was like the week I was finishing my film school, I got a call from the Trans Siberian Orchestra, and they said, can we fly you to Florida for this audition? I was like, and of course I knew who they were. I was like, are you kidding? Like, this would be the dream job.
Wow.
And so they called me. So I flew out to Florida, and so what I remember is when the girl who called me, she said, the one thing they really want is they want someone who's like super confident, who's like, just kind of that thing. And I was like, oh my God, I'm not that person. How am I going to do this? I'd seen the people who had played with them before, and I felt like, oh my gosh, like I don't really match up to them. But I channeled this super confident person. Like, before I walked into my audition, I was like, how would I stand? What would I be like? How would I act? And so I went in there, and I was this different person. I was so confident. They said, okay, can you sit up in that little corner over there and you can, play for us there? I go, oh, that doesn't work for me. I said, I need a way bigger space than that. And I pulled this whole diva thing, and while I'm saying this, I was like, I can't believe I'm saying this. This is not me. Oh my God, what am I doing? But it like was like coming out of me. I don't know where it came from. And so I was literally running around this whole like room playing my audition, like doing back bends and like going down the floor. And like, I mean, I was acting like a crazy person. And while I'm doing it, the people are like, yeah. And they hired me like on the spot.
Wow.
Yeah. That was a little crazy.
My God.
Yeah.
That.
And then I left and went back to my hotel room. I was like, that was just not me. I what just happened? I was actually in shock.
You're like, I got so good at improv and channeling that actually now I'm a little confused who that was and who am I? And
and then I called my parents like, well, how'd it go? I go, I mean, I think I got the job, but I'm not really sure how.
Just someone else took over. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Asha, that's a crazy story. I don't think I remember you telling me that aspect. That is, so what did you I'm like still wondering and worried about your stuff in Australia. Did you end up getting all your stuff back?
Yeah.
Okay. Just making sure you got back in, obviously, because you're here. Yeah. Did you love Australia? That's one of my places.
I did. It's so beautiful there. Yeah. The people are great. Yeah. I loved it.
Cool. So then you're like totally alter ego someone else, like diva. I love it. And then once you got to know them, I mean, did you just go with that identity once you were hired? Like, did you have to remember, be like, all right, I got to get back to her?
Well, okay. So, the guy who founded the Trans Siberian Orchestra, this guy, Paul O'Neill, he passed away a couple of years ago, but he was just the most unbelievable man. I mean, brilliant and generous and he just believed, like when he believed in you, he believed in you. And he was at my audition. He was the one who's like, yeah. And when he believes in you, you're like, okay, I can do this. And so I remember we have 2 weeks of rehearsal before we start. And so now I've been in there for 8 years. So it's been a while now. So now it's fine. But my first year I'd played in, arenas before. I'd played on large stages, but it was more as like a chamber group, and we were sitting over in the corner, and it was never this thing where I had to like be running actually across the whole stage. And so during rehearsals though, I mean, he worked with me. Like, he's like, you need to be running faster. I want you here. And then I want you over there. And he's like, you're not running fast enough. You need to be moving more. I mean, he really like worked with me and, kind of gave me that, I guess, the confidence and it took a while, like even my first year, it was like, the first tour I was still learning how to do it and, but it was kind of crazy.
That is crazy. That's a good workout, actually.
Yeah, it was. I actually, right before tour starts, probably 1 or 2 months before tour starts, I go to the gym like crazy. I'm like running nonstop because it is a workout. Yeah, because we have 2 shows a day and they're probably 2.5 to 3 hours long, and I'm standing the whole time. I'm in boots. It's a lot.
How do you take care of yourself? Like, I always think about that aspect, right? Like, you got to have the energy to show up like that. How do you manage your energy when you're on tour like that?
It's really difficult, to be honest. I mean, part of that is just getting in shape beforehand.
Yeah.
It's a really big tour. So I want to say like 150 people on the crew or something. It's a lot of people. But they have catering. So and our catering is amazing. I'm vegan. But no one else on this tour is vegan. And there's all these like huge like crew guys who come into the catering and they want like their meat and stuff like that. And they're so sweet. Catering like will make me vegan meals. And it turns out they're actually so good that all these like big meat eaters are eating all the vegan food and they have to like save a little portion for me.
That's so fantastic. Oh my God. I'll have to find you at one of them. I'm also quasi-vegan. I'm vegan like 90% of the time.
Yeah. You know what? It's hard on the road. I'm not like 100% vegan anymore, but yeah.
Right. Wow. And how often when you're touring, is it like, all right, October to February, or is it a couple months a year? What does that look like?
Well, so the winter tour is usually kind of end of October through beginning of January. And sometimes we'll have a spring tour, which is over in Europe. We haven't had that in the last couple of years though.
You know what I just love I love you. And I love what I love about your story is like, I'm thinking for those listening, everyone tuning in, listen, like you were in a space that was like, it's got to be a certain way. I'm in the straight and narrow. I'm following the rules. And like, hopefully for most, it's an illness doesn't have to wake you up. But what I love is like you woke the F up and just decided, like you just grabbed life and you were like, all right, I'm doing life from the inside, like that playing that violin, piece from your heart. It's like something to me sounds like it just opened up and it's just showing up in your life all over the place. And you just, to me, just seems so unleashed, which is just incredible.
Yeah, I feel like this freedom. I mean, I obviously live kind of like, I don't really have a schedule. I mean, touring is really, kind of regimented, but other than that, I kind of make do what I want. So I have that freedom, which a lot of people don't. So I'm really lucky. And I've sort of created that like on purpose. Part of the reason I built this tiny house too, is that I was living in New York City and my brother and his family live in Fayetteville, Arkansas. And my friend was the host on this show called Tiny House Nation. And he's like, you should totally apply. And I'm obsessed with tiny houses. I was like, okay, I'll do it. So anyway, and what I don't know if you've read this book called The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying.
Oh, by Marie Kondo?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've read the Cliff Notes, but yes, I know that. I mean, I love her and I love it.
So I was obsessed with that book, and I read that book and I went and I had storage units in LA, Boston, and New York. And I was like, what am I doing? It like felt like this weight. And I went and I cleaned out all my storage units. I think I threw away, I mean, I didn't think I had a lot, but I threw away 50 bags of stuff or like Goodwill. It was crazy. I didn't even think I had that much stuff. Wow. And what I loved about it is, and that was part of the reason of going tiny also, is like just living with what brings me joy. And that's like what, I mean, the things I have mostly are like my instruments around this wall. I'm in my trailer right now, but I really don't have that much stuff. I mean, I kind of got rid of most of it. Mostly it's like just instruments. I forget why I started telling you that, but.
Oh, the tiny house and paring down, and you applied in the show.
Oh yeah. So, sorry. So I got on the show and they built me this house. Sorry. I missed that whole part of the story.
Oh, it's all good.
Yeah, so anyway, but yeah. So, but I think that was part of it is, I used to like live thinking I want more and more and more. And now it's really like, I realize it's about community and being around my family and just like what's important to me. And happiness doesn't come from having these things. It's about like experiences. And that was really important to me too. Like when I went through breast cancer, I was like, I made a list for myself. I guess you could call it a bucket list of all the things that I was terrified of doing or all the things I'd never done before in my life. And I just started going through them and being like, okay, I've never been here. I want to go here. I want to learn to dance. So I went to Colombia for a month by myself and to learn salsa. So I did kind of, I have all these different things I've wanted to do. And I all of a sudden just started going for it and like doing it, which I never sort of had the courage to do before.
That is so powerful, Asha. I'm thinking like for those tuning in, like this is great wisdom. Hopefully everyone listening, you don't need an illness to start this, but create a list. I love that you did that, like all the things that you were scared of, and then start looking at, okay, how am I going to do that? When can I do that? Where can I do that? What I love is like, you're just living it. I mean, you like, the 400 square foot house, tiny house, like you're living the big dream in a tiny house. That's what we're going to call this. Big dream.
Well, I think sometimes people see my life and they're like, wow, you're so brave and you're so this and that.
Right.
I'm actually the least brave person you will ever meet. I am honestly scared of everything. Like I still am.
Yeah.
People don't really see that side because it's almost become like a muscle. I force myself to do these things.
Yeah.
And now it's become almost like exciting. I've turned that sort of fear into like excitement.
Yes.
And it's definitely a muscle that you have to sort of get used to kind of using.
I love what you just said. I think this is very important, and we could like go for hours on this, but this whole idea of when you have fear, it's actually very close to the emotion of excitement. And so I love what you just did. It's like when you have fear, you could actually, instead of saying I'm scared, you could say, you know what, I'm kind of excited about it. Like I'm anticipating, maybe a little anxious, but I'm excited. I love that you just said that. That's such a great reframe.
And I think like the unknown is always really scary. I think for most people, it's really, really super scary. And what I've had to do is become really sort of comfortable with the unknown. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, and it's that excitement again, like it's the fear, but turning to, okay, I have no idea. And I have to say, like, I love control. So this has been one of my life lessons is learning how to let go of control.
Yeah.
So it's not an easy thing for me. And so being in the unknown is obviously not comfortable for me, but I've had to sort of learn how to do that. And that it really, really, truly is a muscle.
That's such a great way to say it. I love that. All right. One of the last things I want to ask you about, because I know we've had this conversation about the power of meditation and getting quiet. I know I don't want to speak for you, but when we spoke about it, I know for me, this has been one of those things that for the longest time as a doer, overachiever, like sitting still on my butt is not easy to do. And I just love to hear your kind of the journey that you've had with meditation, how that's just helped you to be your USU in your tiny house.
Yeah. So I was kind of going through a hard time, maybe about 8 years ago or something. And I was like, I need something different in my life. I mean, I had that list and I was like, go, go, go. I started doing that whole thing again where I'm like, okay, even though I'm living my life, right?
Yeah.
I'm not really living very presently. I'm kind of getting through these things as like a list, right? And I was like, wait, this is the whole thing I was trying to get away from, is trying to do these lists and actually be more present. It's like the further I got away from my diagnosis, the less present I was. I was sort of realizing that. And I was like, I need something in my life. And people had told me about meditation. I was like, oh God, that is not for me. I am like type A. I cannot do that. I don't know how to. But I kept hearing about these Vipassana 10-day meditations. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm putting that on my list of things I'm scared of because I feel really anxious about it. And so I signed up for one. And my dad ended up saying he wanted to go also. And so he had never meditated. And we had never really gotten along that well beforehand. But he came with me. He thought this would be like a great bonding experience. And so we went in, we drove to Quebec, and it was the hardest thing I have ever done in my life.
Oh my gosh.
I've done 8 of them now. But when I first got there and after I left that first time, I mean, I actually felt slightly traumatized. I was like, what just happened? It was such a shock to my system. And I almost feel like it completely rewired everything in me in a really good way. It was such a shock that I walked away being like, I can't actually do that again. It was so difficult, like emotionally and physically. And, I was like, I won't meditate again. I will never be back at a 10-day meditation again. And my dad and I were kind of laughing about it. And 6 months later, my dad and I were both back because it was such a change. Like my mom saw such a change in both of us. She actually ended up coming with us too.
Wow.
I was a different person. Like my anxiety lessened. I was so much more calm. I was so much happier. It was just I became this different person. It just changed everything for me on so many levels. And I think the first time was the hardest because I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know how to do it. And it felt like it was just never going to end. And I thought going into it, the hard part was going to be the silence and like not talking. Yeah. And what it turned out is actually the hard part was sitting with your thoughts and having it be so loud. And it's like these thoughts going over and over and over in your head. And you're just like, want to tell yourself to shut up, Okay. That was actually the hardest part for me.
So interesting. I'm reading The Untethered Soul. I don't know if you've read that before.
But I've heard it well.
Oh my gosh. And it talks about, that it's really deep. And it's what you're talking about. Like there's this voice in us, it's not us, but that is talking incessantly all the time. And if it were like a person, you would fire the person or like tell them to leave immediately. Like they would not be allowed around you. And, I think what you're saying, it's so powerful when you start to realize like observer mode, like, my God, there is a nonstop voice going on, many times saying really crappy stuff that has nothing to do with anything. Yeah. And it sounds like you got in touch with that.
Yeah. And each time it's been difficult each time, but in a really different way. Like I learned so much about myself each time I go, and now it's been 8 times I've gone now.
Wow.
And it's still, I mean, each time when I'm walking in, I'm like, oh God, am I really doing this again?
You're like, hard. What am I doing? I was going to say, I want to do one with you, but the problem is because I haven't seen, we need to talk. That's not going to work. I'm not doing a 10-day with you. I'm going to do a 10-day myself. I would be like, I'm breaking the rules. This is not working. We're going to leave. I need to talk to this girl. You guys listening, I can't even explain to you what this is like. Like, this is like reacquainting with a dear soul friend that you just like 20 years later. I mean, it's such a gift. I mean, you are the same sweetheart, amazing dear, badass woman that you were then. We're just not in bio anymore.
About you, Julie. It's so good to see you, talk to you.
So fun. I love you. And I love what you're sharing here. There's so many nuggets of wisdom. Like I'm going to put all of these into show notes. So all of you listening, if you're driving, don't take notes. That's something I used to do. And I'm like, that's dangerous. Don't do that. Do it later. All right, girl, legacy down the road, what you would like to see happen, or, kind of what your, if you were to, you're down the road, dream, goals. I feel like goals are not the right word, but what's something that you really hope to create or to—
You mean for myself or for—
It could be for yourself or the world or for anything. You could take it however you want, actually. Run with that question.
Yeah. That's a really good question. I love creating. Like that's when I'm happiest, when I'm creating something. And it kind of doesn't matter what it is. That's when I feel like the most alive, when I'm doing something like that. I obviously love traveling. I'm 43 years old. I still think about maybe having a kid one day. I don't know how that's going to happen, but maybe that will happen. And yeah, I mean, I think it's, I still have to work on being present. Like that is really like, I still need to work on that daily, because it just helps me be happier. Like, and it's a constant struggle, to like not think about the future or think about the past and really be there, because that's when, you're really the most happiest. And so, I guess that's like my biggest goal, is to keep working on that. I guess it's not really an answer, but for me personally, that's kind of where it is.
I love it. Well, I almost got this image of, when you really, really tapped into your heart and you started playing from your soul, from your heart. And it's like, to do that, the doorway to that is being present, is being in the moment. So it's kind of like, everyone listening, we're just going to stay tuned. I think we should just keep touching base with you every year to just watch what you're creating, because it's going to be awesome. And as long as you keep going to these 10-day, again, I'm not going with you to that. We're going to do something else. But you just keep going and showing up. It's like allowing that flow to come through you is what I'm hearing you say. And just to be present for that.
Yeah, that's a great way. Yeah.
Beautiful. Oh my goodness. What a gift. Who you are, all that you've been through, how you've just chosen to show up in the world, to just be like, screw fear, screw the rules. Like I'm stepping in, I'm going to live my life. And you are such an inspiration. And oh my gosh, I just love you. And I'm so
love
grateful.
You so much. I could give you a big hug.
Yay, hugs. You guys, we're on audio video too. So Ash and I are literally pretending to hug right now. It's kind of fun. You're awesome, girl. Thank you for being here.
I'm so glad we got to do this.
Yay.